Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst, Clint Cosgrove. Clint, like we always say, buddy, it's the best time of the week.
Best time of the week. Let's go, man.
Yeah, even if we're both deprived of sleep, it's still the best time of the week because that's how we're rolling today here on BadgerBlitz TV. Clint, you were in the Rivals camp Atlanta last week. That was one of my favorite episodes we've done just to see everything was going on. Give me some takeaways from there. What did you see? What stood out to you? And, did you find any sleepers under the radars that you think Badgers should be going after?
Yeah, there were some dudes down there. I mean, as expected, it's Georgia. There's a lot of big time players. Some kids made it from Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida as well.
Tennessee,
might even been
too.
Some East Coast kids. Yeah, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina. So a little bit of everything, but a ton of talent. We got anybody from committed guys like Aaron Noland, Ohio State's next up commit, our next quarterback. As far as sleepers, there surprisingly was I don't want to call him a sleeper, but like Jerome Bettis Jr.
I saw one of the highlights of him. He made
crazy catches. Yeah. And he's like a legit 6'3", nicest kid ever. That's a lot of weight on your shoulders when your dad's one of the greatest of all time, but it doesn't affect him at all. Great kid. Just talks about, you ask what schools are standing out in his process, and obviously Notre Dame's one when they offered, and he's at their spring game this weekend. But he's like, I'm just grinding to get better. I'm not where I want to be, and like his mindset is like a pro. So he definitely inherited that from his dad. There were some under the radar guys too. Kid named Tavares Dice. Now he's 2025. He's got maybe more of a guard frame, but he's young, so he might be an offensive tackle. He was a bit over 6'3", 6'4", 280 pounds. Was really impressive. Same high school, actually, as Aaron Noland, the Ohio State commit. Yep. And so I see him blowing up, if Ohio State were to pursue him. And from what I saw, he's in their wheelhouse. Think the Buckeyes could have a leg up on him, but I don't know where they stand as far as their interest. They probably feel like they can get in late on him if they need to. But I think he's in their wheelhouse. I think he's a guy that Wisconsin should take a look at. You just don't know how much time they're going to spend in a place like Georgia. I know they're going to spot recruit nationally after top kids, especially if there's a connection and stuff like that. But, Tavares Dice, definitely a kid that stood out. Who else did I really like?
I know one of the guys that you mentioned to me, Clint, and, you talk about going nationally. One of the elite positions in Wisconsin for the last 10 years has been linebacker, whether it's been outside or inside. Yeah. Chris Jones from Hartfield Academy down in Mississippi. I caught a little bit of what he was doing. And, dude, how does he only have, FCS offers? This kid he's a ridiculous. Leon Jacobs. Leon Jacobs is the athletic comp for this kid. It's insane.
Dude, this kid, so he, I don't know if he signed up in time or what it is, but he had to send an email to our camp director. He's like, because we had closed registration or something. And he's like, please let me in. I want to show that I'm the best linebacker in the nation. You hear this all the time. Kid shows up, no stars, biggest offer Arkansas State, has Central Arkansas, and you figure something's wrong. But this kid is a phenomenal kid. He's a high GPA kid. He may have had the best Rivals camp performance I've seen in my 2 years at Rivals. This kid physically is a freak, athletically is a beast. He is all over the place. He can cover, he can run, he can hit. You sit there and watch, and I had it in my 3-point stance this week because college coaches can't see these guys in person. And if you're off the beaten path, this kid's paying for visits. I mean, now he visited Ole Miss, Florida. He's doing this on his own dime. He might have to go to camps. Whereas if a college coach was at that camp, he would have left with 10 offers. This is a kid who should have 20-plus Power 5 offers at this point. He is that good. It will happen. It's only a matter of time. But the kid was unbelievable, phenomenal. He was our linebacker MVP. He was arguably MVP of the camp. He's what a future pro at linebacker looks like. He's the no-brainer for Wisconsin. If they want to look for a linebacker from the South, you go and grab this kid because academically he's going to be a fit. Kid loves football. He just wants to compete. Like, he has one speed, and it was all go all day. So he is a kid that I'm just waiting for him to blow up. He's a, he could be a Georgia type, an Alabama type, potentially, especially if he went to one of those camps and ran well in the 40s. So he's definitely, of all the sleepers at camps, like, he's that dude. A kid named Jacob Good, who has some pretty big offers. He was phenomenal at safety, really good ball skills. Like, he has a knack for intercepting the ball. And then, Raymond Mosby, he's a corner from Westlake in Atlanta. He's looking at places like Georgia Tech, and he was phenomenal. He won our defensive back MVP. He came in on the day and he's like, I'm here to win MVP. I'm the best here. Like, he literally told me that during warmups, and then he goes out and wins the MVP. He's a 5.53 star right now, obviously due for a ratings bump, but just some impressive talent. And I went through the combine times last night. So even kids who didn't make it to Sunday, there was a kid who ran a 4.26 hand time, 4.31 electronic, and there were two others who were sub 4.41 electronic. Dang. And so, there were some speedsters there as well. So, yeah, great camp. I'm heading to Cincinnati today, where we're going to see some of the finest in the Midwest. So
yeah, I'm really excited to hear about that, Clint, because there's going to be a lot more Badger-type targets up there. But, I mean, you talk about, Wisconsin last year very openly was going after Tackett Curtis from Louisiana. He wasn't finished in the top three. He ended up at USC. But I imagine that this staff, with the much more aggressive recruiting that they're doing, is going to be doing more of these targeted offers, especially in the South. Right? Because, I mean, if they're going to be a national brand that they want to be, they have to be able to recruit there. You're not going to win a lot of battles against Alabama and Georgia, but you got to be in them. You got to be in them, just to spread awareness. Like, literally, it's like an awareness campaign when you go down there like that, especially with a new staff. So, I want to move.
Yeah, and like Christopher Jones is the perfect example. He doesn't have the Florida, Alabama, Auburn. You hop on him, he might hop on the train right away. So. That's why I think it's the NCAA needs to let. I mean, these great events, and maybe it's the NCAA has to approve the event, but college coaches should be able to go to some of this stuff, because it's only hurts the programs and the kids in the long run. Especially when we're putting on the event already.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're gonna pivot here. You talked about some underranked kids that kind of blew up. I have two guys from John McNamara's latest ideal class that I think are going to blow up a little bit. Kahmir Prescott and Mark Schroller. I'm going to drool over the offensive lineman here at the end. We'll get to the DBs first, because Clint's a DB guy. Kahmir Prescott, safety out of Philly, really nice size and frame, 6'1", 180, 185. I could see him, I think that's a really good frame size for what he would be asked to do in the 3-3-5, especially attacking a lot more downhill. You look at some of his track times, his 200 times, very respectable, 23 flat as a sophomore. So, I'm
indoor.
Yeah, 23 flat indoor as a sophomore. I mean, that's solid. That's
you're
solid.
going around a curve the entire time.
So, excited about his physical upside. Want to see what he does this spring in track, Clint. I mean, we always talk about track, but so we're going to turn the tape here in a second, but I see him definitely as someone. He's a 5'6" right now. He's a higher upside prospect, though, just because of that frame and the athleticism.
Yeah, so he's a Philly guy. I don't cover Philly. I knew nothing about him outside of the film eval. But if he is that 6'1", 185 pounds, looks like he has a nice frame. He's got a good level of athleticism. The thing that you like about him is, some people are born with kind of like this innate ability to just hit. So, like, sometimes he plays a little high, and then you see him come in, and he just levels a dude. And it's like, without the leverage, and he can bend, because he starts to bend as he's exploding through the ball carrier. But a guy who can lay the wood like that, even when they're playing a little high, is impressive. Also, he's got the ability to cover. I like that about him. He just seems like a really good instinctive football player. Like, everything is technique sound there. He's keeping his eyes to the quarterback, playing his zone, reads, the intentions, picks the ball up. And then once you see him in the open field with straight lines, pretty good. So, like I said, don't know a lot about him, but he appears to have some man-to-man natural coverage ability, which is nice, because he might be able to play a nickel type, in the 3-3-5, depending on what, type of coverage that you're in. There's a chance that he could be singled up. He's a guy who's going to be able to go into the box and, like you said, run downhill. I kind of like him, the receiver, after watching this one play too, because when he has the ball in his hands, there's a different gear. So he's definitely got that in him. There's a lot to like. I don't know a ton about him outside of the film style, but
so I'm curious. Actually, I'm going to ask you a theoretical question here, Clint, or a hypothetical, I guess. Using defensive backs, we see a lot of these, super athletes now sort of trending towards defensive back in a lot of ways, I think. But a lot of those guys are also really dynamic in the return game. But I feel like we don't see a lot of DBs, especially safeties, in the return game anymore. I mean, since the Jim Leonard era, right? And so, do you potentially see, more DBs ending up as returners as more and more of these elite athletes move to that position?
Yeah, I think part of the reason you don't see elite cornerbacks and defensive backs outside of like the Charles Woodsons and stuff returning kicks is they're so valuable. Like if you lose a top corner or an amazing safety, like that's hard to replace. Receivers a lot easier to replace on the field. So, you talk to NFL guys in the NFL, the best athletes, I don't necessarily agree with this, but they say the best guys, the best athletes, the biggest, baddest dudes are the wide receivers. You look at guys like DK Metcalf, they're the physical freaks of the league. So, you're not going to find a 6'4", 230-pound defensive back that runs a 4.3 40 and is phenomenal with the ball in his hands. So I think that's part of the reason that you see the receivers as the return guys. They're used to catching the ball. They're used to, getting hit right after catching the ball. You've got to be a special player as a defensive back. And the coaches, they got to be able to take a little risk on it. Like Derek Stingley was a beast as a returner down at LSU. Tyrann Mathieu. So
Patrick
it happens.
Peterson.
It's just Patrick Peterson. We're talking all LSU guys now.
That's what they do. That's what they do down at LSU. So, they are DBU. So I think so.
Yeah, and so you can do it at a place like that when you have the depth where, like, if you lose the guy, your season's not over. Some schools, if they lose a guy who they can put on an island and play basically a separate defense with this guy taking care of the other team's number one, you can't afford to lose that guy. And so I think that's why you see, more receivers as return men. Receivers are easier to replace. Elite ones are obviously hard to replace. That's why you don't see a lot of elite receivers back there either. But, it's a lot easier to replace a receiver than a defensive back. In my opinion, the guys with the best quicks and lateral skill and burst and stuff like that are the defensive backs. To me, they're the best athletes on the field. And, you would like to have them return back there if you want to. I'm obviously a little biased, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's one more guy I want to talk about, and you talk about some of these traits, and we're going to talk about Mark Schroller and his 83.5-inch wingspan. And that has happened at short of 7 feet. We've seen guys with long arms. This dude's got long arms, but what I adore about him, he's like, he's kind of long, he's kind of skinny on tape. Dude's nasty. Dude is just like, he really, really wants to hurt you. Like, he wants to hurt you in the best possible way.
And in the worst possible way. I love it. That's what offensive linemen, they got to be like that. They're the nicest guys off the field. But, they got to be mean and nasty. So you see him here, like, he's well, at first glance, I watched the film, he's a little pigeon-toed, or not pigeon-toed, 10 and 2-er, his 1 foot points to 1 points to 10 a.m. But he's very athletic, and a lot of the time that tends to be, it's not something you want to see. You'd rather have a kind of a pigeon foot guy because they're more athletic typically. But I think part of his reason for his stance and everything like that is he's just so tall. And I talk about this at the high school level, so tall and long, it is hard to bend and get underneath guys. So you kind of have to alter your body a little bit. Like right there, you see him with the knock knee. Like, I love that. And then he doesn't look like a 10 and 2-er there. He's twitched up. He gets off the ball. Like you said, bad intentions. He can come in on a guy. So he looks, like I said, with these tall guys, sometimes they look like waist benders, but that's just because they're so much taller than the defenders and they're having to block down on them. You do see Ben here. You see a finish. I want to see him stay on his feet a little more, not go 1-for-1, but he can do a little bit of everything. You see him do some of these gap scheme plays where he's pulling as a tackle and inserting and just, putting his helmet through somebody's chest. He wants to get after you. He's a physical presence. I have not seen him in person as far as I know. He might have been at our rivals camp, but he's just a big kid who can block down. He uses his hands, and he's at a raw stage of his career. I think he's got a chance to be very good. And, he's got the physical traits you can't teach. He's got the athleticism. He's definitely got the nasty. So, for him, it'll just be continued development, playing with good pad level. And that helps actually as you get to the college level. Some of these big, long offensive linemen are actually better in college than they were in high school. And so, incredible upside in my opinion. And, I can see why the Badgers offered.
Yeah, I'm a really, really big fan. And, I think he's just that length that you see him, he can just put his arm so far out and guys cannot get into him because of that length. And and then he uses that leverage to his advantage to put guys in the ground. Man, I'm a fan. So, but
high upside kid for sure.
Yeah, high upside offensive lineman. Wow, who would have guessed that I like that? So we'll be back maybe with more high upside offensive linemen. Also talking Clint from Cincinnati, which I'm super excited to hear about. Hopefully checking from kids who were at the launch as well this Saturday, which is going to be big at Wisconsin. So until next time, he is Clint Cosgrove at @rivals_Clint. I'm Matt Perkins at _Perko_. And until next time, we'll see you guys in the den.
See you in the den.
Sir.